go again?
Oh, no, not again.
You've seen it before, haven't you?
Dom, how long have we been doing this?
Once more unto the bridge, dear friends.
Again and again and again until we're both dead.
Hello, welcome to You've Seen It Before, movie reviews connections in mind. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is the fifth feature in the Indiana Jones series. It is directed by James Mangold this time around, although Steven Spielberg and George Lucas stay on as producers. And this once again stars Harrison Ford as Henry Jones Jr., aka Indiana Jones, who after having retired from his career as a professor of archaeology in New York, is roped into one final adventure with his goddaughter in pursuit of Archimedes' Dial of Destiny. And of course, they must find this and keep it from the hands of Nazis who wish to use it for their own gains. Now, this video review will contain spoilers of Indiana Jones and Dial of Destiny. I'll be doing my spoiler-free thoughts first and foremost, but just so you know, there will be some spoilers later on this review. But first and foremost, let's get the spoiler-free talk out of the way. How good is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny? Is it worth seeing in the movies? Where does it rank on the Indiana Jones scale of the franchise? Because, as many may know, the franchise left off on a bit of a bitter note the last time they attempted this revival of this franchise with Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull way back in 2008. And the obvious question here is Dial of Destiny better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull? Unfortunately, I can't say that the answer is a resounding yes. I will say overall it's probably better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. However, it definitely has its those two films definitely have their hits and misses in their own favor, and this is nowhere near as good as even the worst of the Indiana Jones franchise, the trilogy that preceded Crystal Skull. My personal rankings, I think, Raiders of the Lost Ark is just, next to perfection. And my personal preference, I prefer Last Crusade over Temple of Doom. But, quality-wise, I would say, if Raiders is, if this is, peak indie here, I'd say Last Crusade is probably right around here. And, Temple of Doom is probably down here with... but then as far as quality goes, if I was going to, rank Kingdom of the Crystal Skull along those lines, again, if right around here is Temple of Doom, my lowest ranking of the trilogy, quality-wise, distance from Raiders, if this is the peak, I'd say Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is probably down here. I will say I rewatched all four of the movies prior to seeing Dial of Destiny, so... with a modern eye, I can say, Crystal Skull, it's not the worst thing ever, but it's definitely not great. So, if Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is here, the difference between this and Dial of Destiny, if Dial of Destiny is better, it's probably down here. It's not that much of an improvement, but let's talk about what works, I think. I would say Phoebe Waller-Bridge, she plays Indiana Jones's goddaughter in this, and she definitely does a decent job at as playing the we've seen the rakish, what Indiana Jones was to an extent in his younger days, we'll say pre-Temple of Doom, kind of, if we're going by timeline wise, youthful, full of, cockiness and, in it for the money kind of thing, fortune and glory kind of thing. And She and Harrison Ford do have a decent enough, chemistry when they're bantering off one another in the moment. However, I don't think that necessarily translates into a deeper connection because in the movie, these are supposed to be two characters that that they care about one another, but they've been estranged and haven't seen each other in over a decade at that point. I'm not necessarily buying that those scenarios as they're supposed to be shown in this movie. I will, but like I said, the two definitely hit it off when they're bantering off one another. I'd say, highlight of that would be a tuk-tuk chase down the streets of Tangier, Morocco. That is one where, the banter between them, I'd say is probably at its best. The set pieces, while I can't say there aren't any, that there are any, standout defining set pieces in this movie, I will say there is one or two that are clever enough. And, the chase scenes, while I do think that the unfortunate habit of modern filmmakers to just chop and edit a chase scene into oblivion and not let shots just kind of linger for long enough is definitely on display here. I wouldn't rank it anywhere near as good. Any of the chase scenes anywhere near as good as say the truck chase in Raiders, but they are definitely good, and I would say they're probably on par with Crystal Skull, and that was definitely one of the strong points in Crystal Skull as well. Again, monkeys swinging from vines aside, but yeah, there's definitely that to be had there, and I feel like there is a sense that they're trying. They're trying to recapture that magic of the Raiders, and they're not. And it felt like going into this, they knew that with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, they were kind of riding on the goodwill of the original trilogy. That yes, we'll call that it's kind of like a Phantom Menace kind of thing where people were going nuts for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull before it came out because the original trilogy was more or less great, and riding that nostalgia, that perfect, that more or less perfect feeling into the new movie, and it was a massive letdown. So going into this one, I feel like the filmmakers, they knew that, all right, we got to prove ourselves for this. So I feel like I could tell, me watching it, I could tell that in certain scenes they were in fact trying. I could feel like they're, it's almost like, you could see, James Mangold, the director or the cinematographer, like just off the side of the shot, to be like, see, did we get it right? Did we get it right, baby? It's like, but I don't think they necessarily landed it. And I think one of the more emblematic symbols of how this didn't work, and maybe they were trying too hard, is there's one thing that's consistent between all the four previous Indiana Jones movies is the opening shots. We got establishing shots are common, throughout all filmmaking, but what kind of opening, like it or not, the opening shots and establishing settings of each movie is unique and distinct, and you have sweeping shots to let us know it's like, all right, we're going to settle into this time period, we're going to settle in, this is the mood for the movie. Raiders, you got them walking through the South American jungle. Temple of Doom, you got the camera following Indy going down the stairs of the Club Obi-Wan there. In Last Crusade, we got walking the flashback scene through the canyons in, I guess, Utah. I think they were in, and even in Crystal Skull, you got it's different time setting, a time jump, but you get to set the establishment of kids in a hot rod driving down through the Nevada desert, blasting Elvis. that establishes setting. With Dial of Destiny, however, I think it's not a huge shock that there are flashback scenes. It's been shown in the trailers that scenes with de-aged Harrison Ford are set in World War II. And that is the first, I'd say 15, 20-ish minutes of the movie. And, the opening shots of the movie, it's, the studio logos are starting to pop up. You hear, something's ticking. And then, you're flung into just World War II. Bombs are dropping, things are exploding, soldiers are rushing back and forth. No establishing, nothing. And you're just thrown right into it. And, and that kind of, harriedness, hurry up and go feeling is felt throughout the rest of the movie, and it suffers for it, unfortunately. I will say the de-aging effects on Harrison Ford, for the most part, they look pretty darn good. He definitely moves like an 80-year-old still, but the face did actually look pretty good for what it was. And they do clever lighting shots to help obscure the weirdness of the effect to a certain degree. And they knew that they're getting better at this. They're definitely getting better at the de-aging thing on this. But overall, I would say that's all the kind of positives I can say about this. I hate to say it, but this was kind of a letdown. I felt like I had relatively modest expectations, but I was hoping that given all this time and knowing that the filmmakers knew how much a disappointment the previous film was, that they would go all out on this one, and it just felt like a letdown, unfortunately. And while I can't say it's necessarily worse than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I can't say it's that much better. It's just barely better than Crystal Skull. And unfortunately, that's just gonna. I don't see that getting any better on rewatch. Maybe my opinion will change, revisiting this, a year, 5 years down the road. But for right now, if I was going to give Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny a letter grade, I would say this is a C-. I mean, I hate to, like I said, it feels like I'm delivering bad news to like a hospital or something almost. Because it's like, I wanted it to be good, but I can't say that. So those are my main spoiler-free thoughts on Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Now let's get into some spoiler talk as certain plot developments and character arcs that may seem familiar to you and where you may have seen them before. So another major issue with this movie is, and this is also an issue with Crystal Skull to a lesser extent, but even more so here, is, we've had so many riffs on Indiana Jones come out that you kind of have to preserve the brand of Indy. And, comparing this movie to Crystal Skull, I feel like, again, for all its faults, I feel like Crystal Skull, having just rewatched it, better encapsulated the essence of Indy than Dial of Destiny did. And for one specific reason, when we get to one of the more impressive set pieces, I think, is the Cave of Dionysus, where they have to go navigate through here to get to the second half of the Dial and also Archimedes' tomb. And when you're solving the various puzzles to get into it, we already had this riff in obviously Last Crusade, but seeing it now, after we've already seen, things like Tomb Raider and National Treasure, both riffs on this, puzzle-solving archaeologist, treasure hunter vibe. When Indy does it here, it feels less like, in the vein of Indiana Jones and more like they're almost parodying or riffing off at something that's already been riffed on. But riffing off the riff, if that makes sense. And I just no, I can't defend that. That's just, that's totally mitigating the cool factor here. Um, so there's that. We also have, again, sequels do this a lot, and I'm sad to say that, Indy fell in the same trap as well. I've heard people refer to it as the Ghostbusters II effect, where, in a sequel, where the previous movie we had, our two romantic leads get together and it seems like a happily ever after. Then the sequel, they're broken up. They're about to get divorced, and it really plays no real substantial role in the story at all. I mean, yes, it serves to to lead us into the description of, why isn't Shia LaBeouf, Mutt Williams, in this movie? Oh, he enlisted in the army right before Vietnam, and then he died. Happy. It's like, I'm sure that's made some people who really hated, Mutt Williams, maybe do a silent, fist bump in the theater. But did that really need to be in this movie? No. And by the time they get back together at the end, at the very end of the movie, it's like the second to last shot, and it's like, okay, so was the whole point of this movie, Indy realizing that he has to be in the present so he can get back with Marion? Really? That's what the whole thing was? Okay. I thought we had kind of already learned that lesson in Crystal Skull. How badly handled that was, but so that there's that. And then finally, we've seen various examples of the self-fulfilling prophecy in movies, with time travel. And the example that I came up with, just because I'm a Trekkie, is the classic season 6, yes, 5 to 6, two-parter from Star Trek: The Next Generation, Time's Arrow, where Data gets sent back in time after they discovered in a cave under San Francisco Data's severed head deactivated in a mine. And it's like, all right, well, they go through all their adventures, and the Data's head has to stay in the mine and then get reattached back in the future. Those kind of temporal mechanics, similar to how they showed when they discovered there's an anachronistic wristwatch on the arm of Archimedes, and he gets that from dead Nazi who crashed their bomber on the shores of Syracuse. I mean, you'd think that such a bonkers, swing for home kind of swing like that would gain props to that, but that just raised more questions. Like, one, I mean, yes, the aluminum and stuff is going to disintegrate and degrade over 2,000 years, but at the same time, there was nothing about that got salvaged. Did Archimedes just have a unfathomable realization of, this is going to pollute the timeline, we're going to have to get rid of the wreckage somehow, and, because this isn't supposed to be that way. No, you're going to, that was just so dumb. And, beside the fact that, they go through the Sky Orphanage, which, by the way, straight out of Langoliers, in a way, because, it's not a time rip per se, but it's a time, I guess, they call it a time fissure, I guess, so it's kind of the same thing. But anyways, they go through the fissure, they get knocked around the sky, they probably lost some altitude, and that's understandable, but really, planes, they're capable of gaining altitude, so there really was no good reason why they had to fly, within grappler arrow range of all those Roman triremes. There was no point whatsoever for that. And, finally, and this is more of a me problem than a general audience problem, but the Dial of Destiny itself, it's called the Antikythera, or I guess Theodore Waterbridge calls it the Antikythera. That is based on a real artifact, the Antikythera mechanism, that was made by Archimedes, and it is in the museum in Athens, I believe. But And it was a dial where you could. It was determined that you could calculate. You could turn it, and it would predict when eclipses were. It was basically a solar calendar. There was a little planetarium in there where the model of the solar system as they knew it was. It was a very cool piece of technology, and it vaguely predicted eclipses and all those. But the fact that I know about this, a real scientific device, whereas, Ark of the Covenant, hey, when they say, oh, it's just a artifact, there's nothing godly about them. Oh, there is something, godly about this. To the Holy Grail. Oh, this is something that, God, it grants unto the eternal life. And, there's a spiritual aspect. The Shankara Stones. Hey, there's these mythical stones, and you betrayed Shiva, and they burst into flames. Okay, that's cool. With the Crystal Skull, are you getting into aliens? Yeah, okay, kind of. But then there was also, there are crystal skulls out there, and they are, unique craftsmanship. So you can kind of get away with this. No, this is a actual documented scientific instrument, and they just went. They took the barest bones of it and just ran with it and just turned it into something else, banking on people not knowing what the heck this is. But I know what it is, and that just took me completely out of the movie. So that did not help either. So I could gripe a lot more about this movie. I'd like to be able to focus more on positives, but like I said, there weren't a ton to focus on. But what did you think of Dial of Destiny? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What about my analysis? Do you agree, disagree? Did I miss something? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate whatever audience I can get. Be sure to look for my next movie review, which, if the schedule holds, I believe the next one will be for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, which comes out middle of July. Either that or Oppenheimer. I can't remember which one of those comes first. But anyways, be sure to look for that coming out soon. And if you like this video or any other video on my channel, please give me a like, share, and especially subscribe. I would very much appreciate it. Again, thank you so much for watching. But just remember, there is nothing new under the sun. And yes, you have seen it before.